Welcome to the Ricky Matthews Show from the Citizens Bank Studio. Hope you're having a great day as we continue to celebrate so many incredible people who are working to make Mississippi such a better place to live, work, and play. And I really hope you're having a great day. Listen, you've heard me say this before, and I just said it yesterday in my conversation with the mayor-elect for the city of Gulfport, Hugh Keating, that it's a shame coastal Mississippi doesn't have a four-year university here. It's just a shame. Yeah, I know we've got four-year degree offerings and so on. But boy, when you have a four-year university located in your community, it means a lot. And I'll do a whole show about it soon so we can talk about it more. If you heard my conversation with Hugh Keating yesterday, you heard me talking about it. But it's a shame we don't have it here. At the end of the day, though, I think we're lucky because we've got Mississippi Gulf Coast Community College here. I sing their praises on a regular basis. I think that the team at Gulf Coast Community College is doing a terrific job. They listen to the business and industry community, their stakeholders, and that's one of the reasons why you hear me constantly cite that over 50% of their degree programs are non-traditional education. You don't have a program, you can't say those percentages about a community college if they're not listening to what the business community is needing them to do to respond to what's happening. But I think that, at the end of the day, there may be an opportunity in the future. I know we've got the IHL to get through and we got the community college system to get through, but eventually maybe Mississippi Gulf Coast Community College can offer some four-year university programs. Maybe they're unique. Maybe this is the innovative play that they can do that will enable us to begin to really make a difference here. But in the area of AI, artificial intelligence, something I've been talking about on this show, I mentioned it with you yesterday. Maybe this is one of the areas where Gulf Coast Community College can kind of lay that stake down, and you'll understand more about that when we get to the guest today. But again, for over 3 years, I've been talking about it almost on a weekly basis. I mean, it seems like some aspect of the conversation involves artificial intelligence. But look, too many either guests or people that I talk to in the community don't see the freight train barreling down, through the tunnel with its lights flashing at us. And I would say, it's coming at us at maybe the speed of light. I don't think I'm exaggerating. Things are really beginning to happen so fast. So as we dive into AI, we're not talking about something that's going to happen in the future. We're talking about something happening right now in Mississippi. So it's not the sci-fi stuff. It's not something that's happening in Silicon Valley. It's not the robots that you see, or maybe even that robot dog you saw at the Army parade and at the Washington, D.C. Parade you saw recently honoring the Army. It's not even the scratching the surface that you're doing maybe a little bit of inquiry on Chat GPT, man. Things are happening really, really quickly. And we're going to see it transform jobs across the state of Mississippi. I mean, doctors are going to diagnose diseases faster. We're going to see, my Mississippi Delta farmer friends are going to be optimizing crops using AI. We're going to see businesses running smoother. In fact, let me dive a little bit deeper into that. I mean, you think about the educational opportunities. Over 51% of Mississippians live in rural areas. So that means a lot of education is happening in rural areas of Mississippi. And the opportunity to improve classrooms with AI is dramatic. I mean, you think about the tools that AI can give teachers that will enable them to kind of personalize training opportunities for kids. So let's say we have an underfunded school in an area of the Mississippi Delta, for example, and you've got the opportunity to tailor lessons for a specific child's needs. So if you've got a kid that's like struggling in math, you get a chance to develop programs and exercises that help that struggling kid. But if you have another kid over here whose reading materials are becoming more and more advanced, you can begin to design opportunities for him. And you think about the number of parents that are doing homeschooling today. Think about how AI is going to revolutionize their opportunities for homeschooling. In businesses in Gulfport or Biloxi or Tupelo, you're going to be seeing a lot more predictive, and they're doing it now in some respects, but predicting customer demand and managing their inventories better and creating targeted marketing. As you know, I'm a former digital media CEO, and what's happening as we speak in the marketing applications of AI is transforming companies and approaches. There's just no doubt about that. At Ingalls, listen, if you don't know this already, Ingalls Shipbuilding in Pascagoula is one of the most innovative shipbuilding operations in the world. I mean, they're on the cutting edge already. AI is already streamlining production at Ingalls and will continue to do so. They'll be using it to do predictive, equipment maintenance, and they'll be optimizing their supply chains. The opportunities on the supply chain side of this, inventory management, are huge. So they're going to be saving time. They're going to be reducing costs, and they're going to make Mississippi's shipbuilding extremely competitive. I could talk about the applications for hurricane-prone areas like ours. They're already using AI to do very sophisticated analytical work with predicting storm impacts and stuff like that. You think about doctors. Listen, we have a shortage of doctors in Mississippi. A lot of rural areas are providing health care. So, the opportunity to analyze patient data and flag potential health issues like diabetes complications, which is a real problem in Mississippi. We're going to be, increasing the amount of care that patients across the state of Mississippi get. You're seeing the trucking industry already using AI to really reduce fuel costs and delivery times. And again, I could go on and on. An application, one other to the Delta, is that you're seeing AI used for water quality analysis and things like catfish ponds, where they can predict oxygen levels and disease risk, and it's making it much more efficient and safer to be a catfish farmer in places like the Yazoo City. I mean, I could go on, but listen, AI is going to reshape everything. It's going to be a game changer. And Mississippi is going to be leading in very significant ways. When I do the research about this, incidentally, I think that about 20% of the jobs, our guest today will give us an opportunity to look at this a little bit closer, but about 20% of the jobs in Mississippi, from office work to manufacturing to healthcare, are going to be transformed. I think the net impact in the short term, say in the next 5 years, could be very significant. I mean, the net impact, well, let's say the next 10 years could be up to 50 to 70,000 jobs. You're going to see automation that's going to outpace, taking out low skills like cashiers, clerks, et cetera, are not going to be replaced as quickly by AI related jobs with advanced training that's required. But the changes that we're going to see between now and 2023 are going to be dramatic. And a lot of jobs are going to be impacted. 30,000 to 50,000 jobs in Mississippi. That's why what the governor is doing to bring new manufacturing, new businesses to Mississippi. That's why I keep preaching that we need a coastal Mississippi Economic Development Alliance, so we can diversify our economy, bring in more jobs and more businesses and more advanced manufacturing. This is more critical now than it's ever been before. But there is an alarm bell that's going off. We're talking about new opportunities in high-paying tech jobs. And Mississippi is going to be leading the way with what Governor Reeves announced recently with the Mississippi AI Talent Accelerator Program. It's a really big deal. $9.1 million has been dedicated to colleges and universities across the state of Mississippi to think about the next generation of learning that needs to take place. Here in coastal Mississippi at Gulf Coast Community College, led by Dr. Kollin Napier, the Mississippi Artificial Intelligence Network at Mississippi Gulf Coast Community College is going to be leading the charge for Mississippi. And man, when you hear more about what we're doing and the role that Mississippi Gulf Coast Community College is playing, that not just in the state for the coast or the state of Mississippi, but nationally, you're going to be super impressed. And man, we've got to be ahead of the curve on this for a lot of really, really important reasons. So with all that said, I am thrilled today to be joined by a guy who is the director of the Mississippi Artificial Intelligence Network. He has a Ph.D., and he's someone I think you're going to enjoy getting to know better. But please join me in welcoming Kollin Napier to the Ricky Matthews Show. Kollin, how you doing, my friend?
I'm doing well, Ricky. Thank you for having me.
So listen, we got less than 2 minutes before we go. We're going to hit the ground running when we get on the other side of this. But nothing that I said to start this show surprises you, does it?
Absolutely not. We are in a time of change. If you look back maybe 5 years ago and figure out where we were, it would be completely different. So much innovation's happening so fast, and there's still more to come.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. And what does it feel like? Again, we'll explore this here shortly, but what does it feel like to be on the cutting edge in the US with this effort that you're working with the governor on?
Yeah, the state of Mississippi is leading the entire nation right now when it comes to workforce development for AI. So we are, uh, as it's been put to me, we're building the plane as we're flying it as well. So a lot of new opportunities coming into play, a lot of challenges, a lot of things that we don't really know how to navigate it, but we figure it out over time with great partnerships all throughout the state.
Yeah, this is going to be cool. Listen, we're going to take a step back when we come back from break. I want to learn more about, what's Collin's past? What is it that brought him to be now the new director as a PhD in charge of the Mississippi Artificial Intelligence Network and the work that the governor's involved with? I mean, we're really on the cutting edge. Bill Cork and I talked about this in the last couple of weeks, and here we are, and we're going to have a deep conversation about it today. We'll see you when we get back on the other side. Welcome back to the Ricky Matthews Show as we are joined by Dr. Kollin Napier. Napier. It's not Napier as it would be pronounced if you were trying to do that solidly, but he's Napier as he pronounces his last name. But he's the director of the Mississippi Artificial Intelligence Network. And, he's in 2024, he's Mississippian of the Year. And of course, he's a leader at Mississippi Gulf Coast Community College. He was a 2025 Rising Star Manager for AI Leadership. He really hit the ground running. But we're going to get into what all of this is about here in just a second. But you grew up in Petal, Kollin. So talk a little bit about what led you to this as your work.
Yeah, so I'm a graduate of the Petal School District, great system. Back when I graduated, and even better today with all the efforts they have going on. I went to Jones College, achieved an associate's degree there, and I was ready to go into the workforce. I earned a degree in computer information systems programming. I was ready to build software and had the opportunity to transition into four-year university setting and went to Mississippi State University, where I was part of their computer science and engineering department. And over my time there, learned a lot of great things about the computer science field, from cloud computing to cybersecurity, and more importantly, AI. A lot of people don't realize that AI is decades old, 50, 60 years old at this point. But we're just now seeing the benefits of that research and development over time. So my whole background and my research and dissertation all builds around machine learning, which is a subcategory of AI, and blending that with cybersecurity. And I just have a passion for it. I understand the technical side, I understand the non-technical, and this led me to this opportunity today to bring that expertise back to the state of Mississippi when it comes to our post-secondary education system, when it comes to state government, and more importantly, the citizens around the state.
It is incredibly enabling technology. I remember when I was leading some efforts for Nate Ritter back many years ago, we obviously cloud computing wasn't even in the brains at that time, but we were talking about developing centralized Oracle databases and really beginning to really embrace technology and find the efficiencies and the opportunities related to all of that. But you look at the transformative nature of AI. You look back in history outside of developing the computer and what the computer did to change how we, solve problems and so on. The transformative nature of AI across literally every sector of the economy and beyond, simultaneously happening. Have we ever seen anything like this before?
My argument is no, we have not. We've seen, of course, the dot-com boom, the World Wide Web, the introduction of the personal computer and into your home, which were, tremendous advancements. But this is that multiplied times 10. It's moving so fast, so rapidly that there's a lot of competition in the market right now. And I like to say that's good because that competition creates innovation and advancement. You see all these companies from Microsoft to Google to OpenAI outdoing each other week after week after week in pushing advancements. And so over time, we're seeing all of this come together and provide back to everyone across Mississippi and of course the U.S. and the globe even, and being able to empower them for productivity and using these tools going forward. And the sky's the limit. You can do so much with this that we haven't even scratched the surface.
Yeah, it's incredible. Yeah, I remember listening to conversations with Elon Musk in the early days of OpenAI, and where he was concerned about where all this might be headed. He talked a lot about we need an FAA for AI, and the problem with that is that it's a global phenomenon, and so it's literally an arms race now with China and others. There's no way, you can't put the genie back in the bottle now, can you? It's going to go wherever it's going to go, unfortunately, or fortunately, whichever way you look at it.
Yeah, across the globe, whether it's China, whether it's the U.S. or any other countries, everybody has the capability to go out and build something new and unique, and so it's very much a competitive time on the market to try to bring that consumer base to your company, to your product, and even, for example, ChatGPT from OpenAI, based out of California. There, I think the latest statistic that they touted was that 10% of the global population utilizes their tools. So roughly 800 million people across the globe using it. So that should tell you something right there.
Yeah, it's it's truly unbelievable. You heard the way I was kind of breaking it out about various sectors across Mississippi that are going to be impacted. I barely scratched the surface, but everything I said is real. You can multiply that times 10. I mean, or 100. It's going to be. It literally is transformative, and any company or individual who's not fully embraced where AI is now and where it's headed are already behind, aren't they?
Yes, even a year, 2 years, however you want to define it. If you have yet to have any sort of discussion about AI, um, you're way behind, especially when it comes to competitive business in the public and private sector. We're looking at this from a standpoint of productivity and efficiency, whether that's state government, whether that's higher ed. And so I keep going around the state advocating for people to have these discussions. I'm not going to tell people to jump headfirst into the pool, but at least start getting your feet wet and understanding what it is, the impact it's having now, but especially the impact it's going to have within the next 5 or 10 years.
I think I read recently something, and I mentioned this to the owners of SuperTalk, who is very interested in understanding AI's impact on the marketing arena and how the radio business and the very unique approach that SuperTalk has taken can find competitive advantage within the scope of all of that. They've got a great digital division of their company, and they're multi-platform and all of that. But one of the things I read, and I think this is really a good one, you probably have talked to many people about this, and that is, one thing to do is, whether you're all the way into this or whether you're just trying to understand how it's going to affect your business, is encouraging leadership in your company, encouraging employees in your company to read about it, to think about the applications to their job, because the more institutional knowledge you can develop inside your company, not only are they going to understand the impact on themselves and begin to understand, okay, now how can my job change and how will it change, and what do I need to do from a skills development point of view? But it's also to maybe unlock some of the creativity inside your company about how to really implement some of the stuff that's coming down the pike. But it's about building internal capacity around AI and growing awareness so that as you go forward, there's less education to do in the future about what the impact could possibly be. You hear that a lot, I'm sure.
Yeah, when I talk to companies, organizations, it doesn't matter who it is. It's understanding what are you currently doing to upskill and reskill your own employees. Take AI out of the picture. Let's just look at it from a broad standpoint and understand, all right, what processes do you have in place that you know like the back of your hand, but maybe could be streamlined or improved, and then understand how AI could be applied to it. A lot of times people are just throwing AI at the wall, seeing where it sticks. instead of taking a step back, understanding their current processes and seeing how AI could benefit them. And in many cases, you may not even need AI. You may need something more simplistic when it comes to that standpoint. But I think people, before they even tackle AI in their environment, they need to understand their environment from a data posture, from a processes, from their employees, what the employees are already doing or not doing, and then build that over time.
Yeah, one of the things, when I led strategic planning effort for Knight Ridder, we did what is called, well, you know it well, but a very extensive current process analysis. So inside the company, understanding the internal processes, understanding the current job skills, understanding the management structures, understanding technology that you have, the products, and all, just really getting a good understanding of where you are right now. And what's cool about AI is that so many best practices and just about every industry are beginning to emerge. And all you got to do is in fact, you can go to AI and ask for applications of AI to your business. In fact, what you could do is you could input all of the current process information into AI and let AI help you define what your future looks like and what the applications are and what the potential technologies might be and so on. It's interesting. AI will actually help you figure out how to adopt AI. I mean, that is one of the cool things about having this capability that continues to grow with each passing day, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's funny you mentioned that because yesterday I was talking with a school district in the state about how they can implement AI, and the question comes about, okay, well, how do I integrate AI into my English composition course? And I said, you know what a cheat code is? Let's go and ask AI how to implement AI into your course. So, there's a lot of benefit there of people not understanding how it applies to them. And I say, well, go and ask it. You are the expert in your field, at your job, your position, and you know the ins and outs. So take the information you have up here in your brain, apply it to AI, and see what AI comes back and tells you is applicable. And again, it's not to say that's going to be 100% accurate or curated for you, but it's at least brainstorming, getting this idea going of, oh, now I see why it's important. Now I see how it can be applied.
We're talking about AI and this really innovative approach that Mississippi Gulf Coast Community College and the state of Mississippi is taking. When we come back, we'll continue the conversation. We'll see you after this. Welcome back to the Ricky Matthews Show from the Citizens Bank studio. We're visiting with someone who will be a regular on this show, Dr. Kollin Napier, who is the director of the Mississippi Artificial Intelligence Network. He's he's an employee of Mississippi Gulf Coast Community College, and we're going to talk a lot more about the role Mississippi Gulf Coast Community College is playing and the innovative stuff that Governor Tate Reeves is unleashing with Collin's help. Hey, just real quick before we go much further, I wanted to mention to you, I used ChatGPT for a period of time, but I was just about doing all my work these days on Grok. And I have all these separate conversations that are going on. And I mean, hundreds of conversations that are going on around things I want to learn more about. And when I say, if people who have not used AI, I do literally mean conversations. So it may be a conversation about the impact of AI on Mississippi. And so AI give you an answer, and then it will spark a thought, and then you can come back and say, that's really good, but let's explore a little bit more in this area. And then you'll give you the answer, and then that sparks something else. And then what it does is, for me, I don't ever go to any search engine ever anymore. I do all of my work in AI now. I don't need to. I don't need biased replies, and Google is very biased, and you can pay to have your search result come up. You get a much better answer, I think, on Grok. But also it synthesizes all the information that's out there and gives you back the best possible answer for the question that you asked. And so, what a great way to learn, man! I mean, it has put my personal learning on steroids. You named the subject. I had a health test where I've been very committed to living a healthy lifestyle for all my life. My A1C came back a little bit high, and I've been working to deal with that. Not anything near diabetes, but something that got my attention, and I've had to think about diet and whatever. I have a whole A1C chapter in Grok, and I can go and say, here's the latest, and it will congratulate me and say, okay, that's good. Let's go back and look at how that fits with the trends that you had over. I mean, literally, it changes your life. My wife Ann uses it in a very similar way. You hear this all the time, but just think about putting that on steroids for a business. The opportunities. It's just incredible. For people who don't know what machine learning is, we don't want to get into the technical stuff, but what makes AI so hugely adaptive is the machine learning aspect of it. How do you talk to just the average person about machine learning?
Well, I really just say it's in the name. You are teaching a machine to reason, to come to logic, just like you would as a human. When you take in new information, you form an opinion, um, give a result out of that. The same thing happens with AI here. It's a lot of times it's pre-trained on information, and then you ask it a question and it spits out a result. And the same thing here. We're training it on real world data, sometimes synthetic data, because I think the running conversation is we're even running out of data to train these new models and what's happening. But essentially, it's just taking the idea of how the brain functions in a human and applying that to a machine.
And think about some the adaptation to your business. One of the things that I was always feared when I left as a CEO in the various companies I had responsibility for. We had 2,000 employees, and every company always thinks about their core employees and institutional knowledge that exists inside their company. And you lose a really smart long-term employee with all that institutional knowledge, and poof, it's gone. It's gone when you lose that employee. But if you've deployed AI in certain parts of your business, it's not going anywhere. It's just going to continue to learn and adapt and help you in whatever. And that's one of the reasons why AI adoption, beyond just the efficiencies, et cetera, is so incredibly important to businesses. And you'll see that part of it grow really, really dramatically. Hey, when we left, though, you mentioned that you were getting into AI and understanding machine learning and all of that. What ultimately caused you to land in your current role?
Opportunity, just being lucky, as I like to say. This really, before I took the role, this idea of this statewide AI initiative, Maine, had been in the works for several years. Our leadership at Mississippi Gulf Coast Community College had very much, just like many other people, known AI has been around and knew it was becoming more innovative over time. A lot of breakthroughs on research and development, and so from that, taking that conversation and applying it to all of our other institutions who've been doing, great research in this area, everybody had the same sort of questions and concerns regarding workforce readiness and being prepared to tackle this new wave as it occurs now and will occur for that next generation of the workforce. And so because of that, the opportunity came about and I applied for it. And here I am a year and a half later, spearheading a lot of these efforts with a lot of great leaders throughout the state, anybody from our governor, anybody from Bill Cork, as you mentioned earlier, to our community college system and beyond, just everybody around the state who wants to see growth and opportunity and betterment for the state coming together to make this a reality.
Yeah, you heard the way I talked about it, Kollin, that there's going to be a net effect. So some jobs are going to be displaced. That's the reality of it. Then other jobs are going to emerge that are much more highly trained positions and so on. And what we're trying to do is make sure there's not a huge gap in that transformation, that we're readying the workforce to the best of our ability to be able to embrace this. I mean, and I think that the data centers have created a conversation, even though you don't have a lot of employees working at those data centers. But I think just the notion of the data centers and Mississippi being on the cutting edge and all of that has really, I think, I put this conversation around AI in the forefront to a lot of conversations. And you've got a governor that's really focused on it. You've got a Mississippi Economic Development Executive Director in Bill Cork that's really focused on it. Did you ever think in your wildest imagination that you'd be standing shoulder to shoulder with those guys leading something that is a first in the U.S.?
Absolutely not, but I'm very humbled and grateful for the opportunity to have like-minded leaders throughout the state who want to see betterment of the state again. And this is in an ideal time for that to occur. And very proud to say we're leading the nation, where I have other states around the nation calling me asking, what are you doing and how are you doing it? Because we want to take charge here. And so it's, again, very humbling to see. But again, we're just scratching the surface. There's so much more to happen. And even today, we'll have another announcement this afternoon with the governor to, again, keep advancing this going forward for the state of Mississippi, for our citizens, for that economic growth. But for economic growth to happen, we need the workforce who is ready and prepared for that.
Yeah, and look, because the governor's a numbers guy. Tate Reeves is a numbers guy, and he will always be defined as an economic development governor. There's no doubt about that. But he sees what I said at the beginning of the show around the net impact of all of this, that a lot of jobs in Mississippi are going to be impacted by artificial intelligence. And the jobs that emerge related to artificial intelligence, there won't be more of those than there are jobs that have been eliminated. So the net impact will be great. That's the reason why, as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, that we've got to, and he will continue to be, and hopefully his predecessor will be as well, focused on growing the number of businesses and opportunities here in Mississippi. I mean, he's done such a good job of that. But that's the way we win going forward, and we have to embrace it. And what's going to happen with training opportunities really across the state, including some of the private colleges, is going to be pretty dramatic over the next couple of years, isn't it?
Yes, and even with the announcement last week with the Talent Accelerator program, we're providing more opportunities throughout the state where we're all working together under this umbrella of Maine, but we can all act autonomously in the way that we do things that best benefit, like, for example, Alcorn State University using these grant funds for telehealth, AI and telehealth, giving back to sort of that Delta region there. And so we're seeing the local impact, the regional impact, and then, of course, the statewide impact. So there's a lot that has happened to date that will happen and will continue to do so as we get deeper and deeper in this and see more of the numbers associated, the impact, both from a workforce standpoint and economically as well.
Well, as a former student at Mississippi Gulf Coast Community College, I have a special place in my heart. Of course, Mary Graham's been on the show multiple times, and others of the leaders at the school. But I wonder, I look forward to having her back again soon. I want to ask her that in all those, over the past 5 or 6 years that she and I have talked about this, the strategic planning that she engaged this organization in, to think about the future, to listen to the stakeholders, all the stuff that was going on. I wonder if she ever imagined that it would engage the smart people that are part of that college in such a way that it continues to evolve in ways probably beyond her wildest imagination. I think it's that thinking, this iterative, got to stay on the cutting edge, be innovative thinking, that led to embracing AI the way that it was, that it's a cultural phenomena at Mississippi Gulf Coast Community College. I think that's one of the reasons why I think they're really well positioned to fill the gap for us not having a 4-year university here in coastal Mississippi. That's kind of the way I see it. Hey, when we come back on the other side, we're going to learn more about what Kollin is doing on a day-to-day basis. We'll see you after this. I love hearing Mississippi being on the cutting edge. Welcome back to the Ricky Matthews Show from the Citizens Bank Studio. We're joined today by someone who's going to be a regular on this show, Dr. Kollin Napier, who is a Ph.D., and he's the director of the Mississippi Artificial Intelligence Network. And, some really, really important things that are happening in our state that puts Mississippi on the cutting edge as we're working across colleges and universities in Mississippi to really advance the job skills side of AI in a way that will now enable us to, I think, adapt faster to the reality of what everyone in business and every sector of our economy is facing. There's just no doubting that. Hey, when you think about, I was talking glowing terms about Mississippi Gulf Coast Community College, but I went there. It changed my life. And I've had, many opportunities over many years to focus on it. I've always stayed very close to what's happening there, but there's a culture there at Mississippi Gulf Coast Community College to be strategic. And it's that culture that leads to embracing something like artificial intelligence in the way that that's happened. That was no accident, was it, Kollin?
Absolutely not. Mississippi Gulf Coast Community College leads in a wide variety of areas, anything from a welding program to other CTE programs, healthcare and beyond. So this is just an added apple in the basket here of great things that are being offered to the state, but specifically the Gulf Coast.
So you hit the ground running when you got into this role. Tell me about your day-to-day activities. What are you doing from one day to the next?
Oh, different things. One day is never the same as the last. A lot of time, if you keep up with me, I'm very active on social media through my personal pages or through the main page, Mississippi AI Network page. I travel a lot. I'm currently in Jackson at the moment for an announcement this afternoon. I go around the state doing all kinds of advocating, conferences, speeches, workshops, anything I can do to really kickstart a lot of AI conversation and experimentation throughout the state. But I engage locally with our businesses on the Gulf Coast, with our post-secondary, with K-12, with state government. I'm all over the place, but for good reason. It takes somebody to really spearhead these efforts. And again, I'm just very humbled to be in this position and have like-minded people throughout the state who help support this.
Well, it's interesting. You have to listen. You really, if you were to develop a continuum of learning where at one end of the continuum is zero knowledge, on the other end of the continuum it's near complete knowledge. As you travel and talk to people, have you been amazed at how fast people are beginning to understand and how they're doing their research about AI and the more sort of vast awareness of AI? Has that been happening at light speed, or are you concerned? Do you wish people would be a little bit faster on that learning curve?
We could always be, a little faster at it, but I am surprised at the knowledge that's already out there. There are a lot of times I get in front of an audience who know about the latest development that happened yesterday or this week, because at the same time you're seeing AI everywhere you look, from the stock market to your local news to your national news, even reading the newspaper. AI is there somewhere in some capacity. So I applaud people throughout the state of Mississippi who've kept up to date with it, and starting to understand it more. And so my job blends into making it important for them and seeing how it can be applied in their day to day, whether that's professionally or even personally. Regardless of the demographic, regardless of if you are just a student going through the academic system, whether you're a retiree living on the coast of the Delta, there's so much positive thinking and innovation happening. And I just look forward to that expanding over time.
Yeah, I just detailed a few of those opportunities, some of them being used already. But when you think about the healthcare applications in a state like Mississippi that's got so many healthcare challenges because of the rural nature of our state, and the fact that hospitals have closed and we're really struggling with how to deal with our rural communities. When you think about the educational applications of AI in a rural state like Mississippi, I guess you start to break all that down, but it's transformative, man. It's going to help us. On a state like Mississippi that's already improving dramatically where it sits in national rankings. If we can solve the problems of healthcare in places like the Mississippi Delta and improve education greatly in places like the Mississippi Delta, we change the trajectory of our rankings even more dramatically. But it's exciting to think about those things, isn't it?
Absolutely. And looking at where we can apply AI in areas of need, again, whether that's healthcare specifically, whether that's education, we want to be seen as a leader in all these different areas. And we're working towards that right now. So again, this is not going to happen overnight by any means, but the seeds are being planted today for that benefit to come over the next couple of years. through partnerships, through funding, through just advancement in general, and we're going to see the benefits of that.
Well, listen, Dr. Kollin Napier, Director of the Mississippi Artificial Intelligence Network at Mississippi Gulf Coast Community College, congratulations for being in that role, for being on the national stage, for working so closely with Governor Tate Reeves, who obviously has this as a major goal, and so many other stakeholders. Congratulations on pushing forward a culture at Mississippi Gulf Coast Community College that continues to prove itself as very innovative. I can't wait for future conversations. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me, Ricky.
It's been a pleasure. Have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow.